Hey everybody, welcome to 3 Zoodiac Combos that you need to know for the April 1st, 2020 format, aka Master Rule 5. This is two of these are one card combos, and then the third combo is a 2 card combo that you can do. Definitely there's like more that you can do with this deck, but I mean obviously Zoodiac is a 1 card combo deck. You can, one card is your whole engine, so I think that's pretty cool. And you can just fill the rest of your deck with trap cards or hand traps or anything of that sort, and you can definitely like break boards that way. So I think this deck has some potential. Obviously it's not going to be tier 1. I don't expect it to be. If Barrage was at 3, I can maybe see this being a solid tier 2 maybe deck, but for right now it's definitely like a rogue option. So let's go ahead and take a look at this combo. So this is a going first combo, and all you need is Tanky or Rat Pier, and let's see what this can do. So alternatively, I do want to mention you could go ahead and use Thoroblade plus any Zoodiac monster, and it does roughly the same board, but it has to be specifically Thoroblade. There's no other, like Thoroblade plus any Zoo also does this full combo. So but it's best if you get Thoroblade plus Whiptail, but I'll definitely show you that in a second. So pretty much any way to have a Zoodiac monster in the graveyard plus a Zoodiac monster on field, which you'll see here in a second, which is literally what Rat Pier does. So Rat Pier is going to go ahead and normal summon itself, and you're going to use the effect of Rat Pier, which sends a Zoodiac card from your deck to the graveyard. So the Zoodiac card we're going to be sending in this case is Zoodiac Whiptail. So we're sending Whiptail because I believe that it has probably one of the best follow-up, or the best, like one of the best effects, I think. Ram is also a really good option here, but I personally prefer Whiptail in this case. You could definitely try Ram and see what you think, but I think Whiptail's a little bit better. So then you're going to go ahead and overlay on top of your Rat Pier into a Hammer Kong. You can also use Borbo in this case, but Hammer Kong I think is just better, because I think it's better to keep the Borbo in the extra deck because it can attack directly. Chakanine is going to come down over top the Hammer Kong, and then you can use the Chakanine effect to go ahead and special summon the Hammer Kong back from your graveyard. Then you can overlay Tiger Mortar on top of the Chakanine, and you can detach to reattach the Whiptail to it. So I move the Hammer Kong out of the way, and then you can go ahead and overlay a Trident on top of the Tiger Mortar. So what this board accomplishes is the Hammer Kong is negated, so in the end phase, what happens is the Hammer Kong will activate, but it won't detach any cards because it's negated off of Chakanine's effect. If you read it here, it negates... I don't think you can see it on the screen, but it says, once per turn, you can detach material, target a zoo in the grave, special summon it, but for the rest of the turn, its effects are negated. Also, it cannot be used as Xyz material for a summon. So the Hammer Kong's effects are negated. So at the end phase, Hammer Kong is going to trigger to mandatory detach a card from its materials. But because it's negated, it'll just resolve negated, and you'll keep the material for the next turn. And what Hammer Kong does is it protects your Zoodiac monsters from being targeted except for itself. So if your opponent activates, say, Mind Control, they can't target your Trident. They must attack, or they must target the Hammer Kong. But that's only when Hammer Kong has Xyz materials under it. So if it doesn't have any materials, that effect won't apply. So that's why it's definitely like a decent option here. But it's not mandatory. It's like Hammer Kong is just okay. Like, the only thing it really protects you from is Mind Control, which is like limited, but there's not really a whole lot it like protects you from as well. I guess it does protect you from Trident if your opponent's playing a Zoom mirror match. But yeah, alternatively, what you can do, which I show here in a second, is that you can, instead of detaching from Tiger and reattaching the Hammer or the Whiptail to the Hammer Kong, you can just attach the Whiptail to the Tiger Mortar and then overlay the Trident. So you're going to have 3 materials under the Trident, which could be good because then you can, on your opponent's turn, basically if they want to get rid of the Trident, they're going to have to attack it, and then you're going to, like, pretty much they're put into an awkward position, right? So they can play their turn under the Trident and just hope the Trident doesn't do anything, but if, they can clear the Trident or play through the Trident, then, I mean, they can play through it, I guess, so it doesn't matter either way. But I think that this one is a little bit better because you do have like an extra body on the field for the next turn, which I'll show why is important here in a second. But if they try to attack the Trident, you can use the Trident to pop whatever attacks. And then if they have like another monster to try and attack the Trident, you can let it go through, and then whatever they attack with gets banished because of Whiptail's effect. So I think that this one is better because they have to deal with the Trident twice, because they have to attack into it, and then like you're just going to pop the monster, and then they attack into it again, and then you banish the monster. So you get rid of 2 threats off of 1 card. So I think that's really cool, but I mean, you know, because in the end phase of their turn, they can just wait till the end phase, and then Hammer Kong's going to mandatory detach the Whiptail, and then they don't have to worry about it. So, I mean, it's definitely like pros and cons to this, but I mean, realistically, there's not a whole lot to weigh, so I think that this is going to be the better board overall than having the Whiptail under the Hammer Kong. So, yeah. So, then on your turn, you can follow up with this play here. So you can overlay the Chakanine on top of the Hammer Kong. Also, since it's your turn, you can use Trident to pop one of their cards. It has to be a face-up card, obviously, though. Then you can use the Chakanine to special summon the Chakanine from your graveyard. And then you can use all 3 monsters into your Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops. So what this does is you can target any card on your opponent's field as well as an Xyz monster in your grave, summon your Xyz monster, and attach their card to your monster as material. So you can obviously summon back the Trident, which I don't think is the right play here, because sure, you're going to get like the Trident, but I think the right play here is to actually go ahead and summon the Chakanine, attaching the card from their field to your Chakanine as material. I mean, the Trident you have to do if you're specifically wanting to get rid of a threat immediately. But with the Chakanine, you can save the Trident for your turn, or your opponent's turn. So then you can use the Chakanine effect because you're going to detach whatever they had as material to their graveyard, and then you can summon back the Trident to your field. Then you can overlay Tiger Mortar on top of your Chakanine and use it to summon the Whiptail, or reattach the Whiptail to your Trident. And then what this does is, sure, it'll be negated, but on your opponent's turn, its effects will come back. So you can actually use this to pop a card on their field. So, I mean, I think that's still pretty cool. Do remember that all battle damage your opponent takes for the rest of the turn is halved. Don't forget that, because that is a lingering effect that will apply for the rest of the turn. So, yeah. And I think that this is a little bit better because it does put 2 bodies on the field, as well as you have interruption on your opponent's turn. Obviously, if you want to get rid of a threat immediately, you would just summon the Trident instead of the Chakanine. But I mean, it doesn't leave you with an extra card under the Trident, so you won't have a follow-up, I guess is what I'm saying. So I think that this is better overall, but definitely weigh your options as much as you can. So I think this is pretty cool as well, and Megaclops is amazing because you can do this every turn now. So you can, next turn, link these off into, I don't know, Nightmare Phoenix, and then use the Megaclops to bring back the Chakanine, and then bring back the Trident yet again. So that's really cool. Plus, the Megaclops is extremely hard to get rid of because it's unaffected by monster effects except by Xyz monsters, and it can be destroyed by battle except for Xyz monsters as well. Moving on into combo number 2. This combo is really cool. It's a going second combo, and this is the 1-card Megaclops. So I definitely wanted to showcase this one specifically. This one is probably my favorite combo, and it's the one that you definitely need to know. So, Tenki searches for Rapier, then you can go ahead and over the Rapier, sending Ram, overlaying Chakanine over the Rapier, then you can detach Rapier off the Chakanine to summon back the Ram. So what this does is when it is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a zoo in your grave and special summon it. So the reason that you have to do it this way is because Chakanine makes it so this cannot be used as Xyz material. You bring it back, its effects are negated, but you cannot use it as Xyz material. So, but it only negates the effects while it's on the field. So what you can do is you can go into a Trident, and you can go ahead and use Trident to go ahead and pop Ram, and then you can use the Ram effect targeting the Chakanine to special summon the Chakanine that you detached off the Trident. Then you can go ahead and the Chakanine's effects aren't negated because Ram doesn't negate the effects. So then you can go ahead and overlay a Tiger Mortar on top of the Trident, and then you can use Tiger Mortar's effect to detach and reattach to an Xyz monster. So you're going to reattach the Trident to your Chakanine, and then you're going to use Chakanine's effect, detaching, targeting the Trident to special summon it back from the graveyard. Then you can go ahead and link all of those off into Megaclops. So this is an amazing play because it's a 1-card Megaclops, and it doesn't use any other materials. These are the only 3 Xyz monsters you use, so you do keep your Borbo and your Hammerkong, which, I mean, are the worst ones, but, I mean, you still have 2 zoos that you can still overlay on top of your cards. Alternatively, you could also, if you get 2 level 4 monsters, you can just hard make Chakanine, which is another option. Obviously, then you could go ahead and use Chakanine's effect, the Megaclops effect to bring back your Trident. Specifically, you want to bring back the Trident because if you bring back the Chakanine, you could bring back the Trident, like off of the Chakanine's effect, but then you won't have any materials under your Trident because you already used your Tiger Mortar's effect. So you always want to probably bring back the Trident in this specific case. But if you didn't use the Tiger Mortar in some weird way that you went about this combo, then you definitely would want to bring back the Chakanine, then the Trident. So, yep. So that's a really cool combo, and it gets rid of 2 cards on your opponent's field because of Trident's effect as well as Megaclops' effect. So I think that's really cool. Moving on into the third and final combo, which is really, really cool. This requires Time Thief, Winder, and I think this combo is really, really important for going first, which makes the Time Thief deck very important, or the Time Thief cards really important, specifically Winder. So let's go ahead and see what it can do. So Tenki can go ahead and search us for Rapier, and then we can use Rapier's effect to go ahead and send Ram to the graveyard. Alternatively, like I said earlier, you could also use Thoroughblade as well as your Ram, and this would be the same thing. And it would also keep 3 other cards in your hand in this case, plus the Winder, so 4 cards if you count the Winder. So because you do get a draw off of Thoroughblade's effect, but we're going to go ahead and summon the Hammerkong over the Rapier, and then we're going to use Winder's effect to special summon it, because you can detach material from an Xyz monster you control to summon it, and then when it's summoned, you can go ahead and add any Time Thief card from your deck to your hand. So we're going to go ahead and add Retrograde. Next, we can overlay Chakanine on top of Hammerkong, and then we can use the effect to detach and special summon the Ram from the graveyard. Do remember that the Ram cannot be used as Xyz material, so we have to play around that. And the way that we're going to go about that is we're going to overlay a Borbo on top, and then we're going to overlay the Trident. So the reason we do this is so that we have an extra material under the Trident, because we're going to use one of the materials to pop the Ram, and then the other material is going to be used on our opponent's turn to pop whatever threat they happen to give to send our way. So then we're going to do what I said earlier. We're going to use the Trident's effect to go ahead and pop the Ram. And then we're going to use Ram's effect to bring back Rapier. Obviously, if you use Thoroughblade in this case, you would just bring back the Thoroughblade instead of the Rapier. Then we're going to overlay the Winder and the Rapier into a copy of Time Thief Redoer. Do notice that I am putting these cards in defense mode. There's 2 reasons for that. Obviously, you don't want to get Borosword OTK'd. That's like the main obvious reason. But the second reason is because you're playing around Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm destroys all face-up attack position monsters, so obviously if you put everything in defense position, what are they going to Lightning Storm? You have no face-up attack position monsters, so it's pretty good. Then we're going to go ahead and set Retrograde and pass our turn. So, I mean, obviously if you had other cards in your hand, you'd, play with the rest of your hand as well. But this is definitely a 2-card combo that gives 3 forms of interruption, actually. So I think that's really cool because you can negate any spell card. Realistically, you're not really going to be negating trap cards unless you're against a trap deck. But this doesn't negate monster effects, so remember that. You have a pop off of Trident, and you have an attach off of Redoer. So most of the time, or I guess like 50% of the time with Redoer's effect, you're not going to be attaching an important card. You're not going to attach spells or traps. You're going to be attaching monsters. So I guess Redoer is kind of like iffy there, but you could definitely possibly attach a trap, like especially if you're against a back row deck. Attaching traps to Redoer is so good. But attaching the spells is also pretty nice because then you can negate a spell and then you can draw a card on their turn, on your opponent's turn, and then on your turn you can draw another off of their spell card off that you attached off Retrograde, and then you're also going to get a free attach from their deck during your standby phase off of Redoer. So I think this is really cool, and it does leave you with follow-up because you do have a Zoodiac name on the field, so you can just, after this is over, you can summon a Chakanine, and then use the Chakanine to detach and special back the Trident back, and then you can just bring back, you can also just link all 4 of those off into Megaclops, and then you can go ahead and, an interesting interaction that you could do is, so, like I said, you summon Chakanine, and then use Chakanine detaching the Trident, special Deridant, and then use the Chakanine, the Deridant, and the Redoer into Megaclops. And then you can use Megaclops to summon back your Redoer, attaching one of their trap cards or spell cards, and then you get a free draw, or you get a free just send to the top of the deck if it's a trap card. So I think that's a really cool interaction. I mean, could come up. I mean, it probably will come up if you play this deck enough, but that's a really cool interaction that you could do. But it won't, you won't have any zoo names, so it kind of locks you out of your engine. So yeah, but that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you have any suggestions, do leave them in the comment section below, and I do want to hear your feedback. Thanks for watching.